Okay, name that error. This is an idea that Lisa Bittner, the owner, came up with to help you identify notary signing agent errors on loan documents. So many of you are new, right? And so you might not know what these errors are. You might not know what to look out for. So this is going to give you an overview of some of our most common errors. And this, I was thinking this morning about how today this class is kind of like an overview of what we've seen this month. This month and this year so far, and this kind of tends to happen in our industry, is that the same errors are being repeated over and over by some of the same notaries and then by other notaries too. It's weird. It's like this industry gets into patterns and notaries just happen to be making the same mistakes all at the same time. Super weird and super frustrating for our clients. So I'll kind of tell you stories of what's happened with errors, real life errors this week. So these are all fake documents, but they're samples of what has really happened, the errors we're seeing. And you'll notice there's a lot of repetition because, like I said, a lot of repetition this month in errors. I didn't see anything too new. It's all the same stuff, but kind of surprising stuff. So let's get right into it. So yeah, our objective, identify NSA errors on loan documents. And really the goal is to help sharpen your eye. So where when you're on a signing, you feel confident to know what to avoid and your docs come back nice and clean. So everyone's happy and loans get funded. Okay, we're just going to jump right into it. So how it works is you're going to raise your virtual hand when you are ready to identify the error. So check out the document. There may be multiple errors. I didn't include any trick ones. I think they all have errors, but there's going to be multiple errors on this form. So this is the note. This is 3 pages. Look at the whole thing. When you're ready, raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you. Okay, let's go for Karen. I saw she put her hand up right away. Karen.
Hello.
Hi.
So on this note, I see borrower's initials missing page 2.
Huh?
And a random notary stamp with no notarial wording or certificate attached.
Very good. You did it. That's right. Yeah. So this is one we've had in previous classes. So I thought I'd start you out with one. It isn't an easy one. If you're new, you might not be training your eye. You might not know where to look. But yeah, there's these little sneaky initials at the bottom. So you see we got one on page 1. Page 2 is missing one. And then the notary stamp. So you want to look out for hidden initials. That's super important. So when you, the principles of auditing documents, including your own, you want to scan the bottom. Really, you're looking at the whole form and look for little, small initial lines and triple check your docs, which I'll repeat throughout this class today. And then, yeah, Karen brought out that stamp, that random stamp. So I know it's a new notary when wherever it says seal or wherever a notary thinks they need to stamp, they stamp. We say you get stamp happy. It's actually against the notary regulation to stamp something that isn't a notarization. So no one's going to tell on you. There's no notary police, but just so you know, it's actually against our notary law to just stamp any old form. There has to be notarial verbiage. What does that mean? Acknowledgement or jurat, right? So you only want to stamp where there's a notarization. The word seal next to a borrower's signature line is simply referring to their signature. So when I see this, there's only one lender that I know that will accept this. Everybody else will say, get it re-signed, get that form re-signed. And it may cause a delay and everybody's grumpy, right? So don't go stamp happy. All right, on to the next one, Patriot Act. So check this Patriot Act out. And I see Lee and Pam both have their hands up from the last question. So make sure to lower your hand if you don't want to answer this one, or I'm going to call on you. So hopefully you know the answer. So check it out. Let me know when you're ready. Okay, let's go for Connie.
Well, what's funny about this, because I just did this the other day and I
Uh-huh.
was sitting on my couch, not even looking at docs, and I realized what I had done. And I went back, and so I actually contacted Susan from Coast to Coast, and I said, could you please resend me the Patriot Act forms? Because I had the borrower sign them instead of me signing.
Oh,
So
good catch
that's
though.
exactly what happened here.
Yeah, good catch. Yeah, and it's gonna happen because it isn't a notarization, right? So we don't,
Right.
unless someone tells us, oh, this is for you, you're not gonna know. Or unless it says notary, which a lot of times it doesn't. So yeah, good job, Connie. I'm proud of you. And that's what's funny is, you're getting it when you start to dream of docs, or yeah, like you said, you'll be doing something else and all of a sudden you'll realize your error. You know, you're learning for sure. Good job. So that's a big one. Borrower signed, right? So Darlene, borrower signed, she put her title borrower. There's another error on this one. So let's see, who knows it? Let's go for Lee. Lee still has his hand up, so I'm thinking he knows it.
What I see here is, the place for the license, they've got USA in there. It should be, I guess, California.
Yeah, that, it could be really either one, but yeah, that's a good detail. If they put California, that would maybe it would look better for sure. There's one other error though, it's kind of sneaky, and it really depends on the form. So not all Patriot Acts are gonna have this. It just depends on the specific format. Let's see if Maria notices it.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. The form is asking for 2 forms of identification, but the form only provides 1.
You got it. That's right, Maria. Very good. So not, like I said, not all forms are going to require 2, but Maria very sharply noticed it says the named individual must present at least 2 forms of ID for review. And so we only have 1. So this is an error that sometimes it slips through funding. So the loan may fund, but then when the loan is audited, and it could be some months later, depending on the lender and how busy they are, they're going to say, hey, we need a second form of ID. So that's why when we look at the Patriot Act, one, just like Connie, it's important to know that this is your doc. Very rarely does it have the borrower sign, every once in a while. But as a document that you need to be concerned with, you want to make sure that you're looking and seeing how many forms of ID. So that's awesome. You did it. Very good.
Can you go back?
Oh, yeah, sure. Did I miss something?
Virginia, Joseph wants to.
Sure. Hey, Joseph.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. This is more of a question than it is us solving a riddle or anything.
Sure.
Where is name and title, where we put our, we sign our signature and then we put our name and title.
Yeah.
Is it okay for us to sign as we put our name and then our title will be loan signing agent as opposed to notary public?
So that's a great one. And I knew someone was going to bring it up. So in my career, I've always put notary public. You can put loan signing agent. You can put signing agent on this form. You just want to make sure that on like the deed of trust or any acknowledgements, if it calls for your title, you're putting notary public, because on those notarial forms, that is your title. But yeah, you can put your name. I always put notary public. You can put signing agent, loan signing agent. As long as you put a title there, you're good.
Okay, thanks.
But good one. I know I've gotten some kickback. People say, this isn't a notarization. You can't put notary public. But the fact is that really is your title in this transaction according to the lender. But really, like I mentioned before, there are no notary police. So and you're never going to get it kicked back because on this you put notary public ever, right? By any lender. So just put a title down, and we gave you some options today. Also, Eli, can you make sure to make Hannah a co-host in case Hannah wants to chime in on this one?
That's you. You have to do that.
Sorry about that. I know Eli, we muted each other real quick. It looks like our quality control manager jumped on, so I'm going to make her a co-host in case she wants to chime in. So Hannah, if you want to chime in, feel free to.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, errors and omission compliance agreement. And this is a really funny little error that is very, very common. Okay, let's see. iPhone 714 is the name here. You want to give it a shot?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's missing the notary signature and the date and the
Yeah.
commission number.
Yep, that's right. Very good. Thank you. So this is a super common error. This is a legal size form, or at least it's formatted for legal when you get this particular form, and it's kind of a common format. There's a little skinny hidden notarization at the bottom. So this just teaches us to really look at each form and make sure you don't miss any hidden notarizations like this one. Like I said, this is a very common error. It's a real super easy fix, but it's an error, slows us down, right? We have our QC people, when they get this, it's one more error that could have been avoided. So look at the whole form. Another note though about it, because it's legal, if you cut off docs, it's not going to look like you missed anything because there's this big space in between. So it'll look like there's a barcode missing on the form, but you're not going to see that missing notarization. So just another quick reminder of don't cut anything off. Compare what's printed with what's online, what the PDF that you've been sent looks like. Okay, next up, signature name affidavit. So check this one out. I think we have multiple errors on this form. Okay, let's go for Maria.
Sorry, the hand was for the prior form. I'm still looking at this one.
Okay, that's what I figured. I was like, I've seen Maria's hand up a little bit long. Okay, well, check it out. If you want to comment, let me know. Deborah, do you want to go for this one?
Hi, my hand was actually for the other one as well. But not that being said, I would like to try this one.
Yeah, go for it. Check it out.
See. Personally appear on this day, personally appeared. You know what? I don't know.
Okay, no problem. Let's see. Oh, whoa, you guys. Whoa. You know, I'm having trouble here. Close your eyes before you see. I just gave it away. Okay, let's see. Let's go for Pam Carlson.
Oh, sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute. It's 2022, not 2021 in two places.
Yeah, good job. That's it. You got it all. So this has been a kind of real common error, which is dates being wrong for this year. Now, Hannah could tell me if I'm wrong. I forget. It feels like this year we're having this issue a lot more than we normally do, but maybe every year I forget that we have a date issue. But triple check the signer's dates. That really is your responsibility. You're kind of babysitting the signer, right? So signer's date was wrong. We've had this a lot, especially like 2 weeks ago. It felt like every file had an issue like this. And yeah, also on the my commission expires, sometimes we put the wrong date and I don't know why. Sometimes they'll put current date instead of the expiration date. In this case, again, we dated it in the back. We backdated it, right, for past time. On this specific form though, in general, this bottom notarization gets missed all the time. So notaries will either neglect it totally or the stamp will be missing. And it is weird. It doesn't matter if you're new or you've done hundreds of signings. This is a super common error. happens, I'd say every day, every other day in one of our offices. So again, look at the form, look at the notarization. This is a jurat, so become familiar with what jurats and acknowledgements look like if you're really new. All right, very good. Okay, these forms cause a lot of confusion for many notaries. This is the different tax forms, 1040, 4506T or C, and W9. So check it out, let me know. I see Randy's hand is up. He's a pro, so I don't know if he kept his hand up from the last one, but he probably knows the answer. I've seen Randy's done a lot of signings. So let's go for Randy. Can you unmute yourself, Randy? All right. He can't, it doesn't seem he can unmute, so keep trying. Let's go for Robert Clarkson. Whoop. Robert, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. So the tax document needs to be signed and dated with today's date or the tax return document.
Yep.
Okay. And then the 4506C, the signature, the little box is not marked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That one. And then one over here is just not completely signed at all or dated.
That's right. Yep. Very good. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is a common error. So when you see a tax form like this 1040, it can sometimes look like an old scan or a copy. Probably was a copy from the signer when they filled out the paperwork to get the loan in the beginning of the process. So it can kind of look like, oh, what do I do with this? What is this form? But if it has signatures, lines, have them sign. And just like Robert said, make sure it's dated current date. It could have previously been signed as well. They're going to want a new signature with current date. Middle form, I think we changed the order around a little bit. W9, which was the third form on the last slide, there's a signature a little below halfway, about 3/4 of the way down the page. It's got to be signed. This form is about 4 to 5 pages long, but only the first page needs to be signed. And normally it's already pre-filled in, so you don't need to fill anything in. And then that 4506T or C, you'll see both forms. They're pretty much the same thing. There's a little box that needs to be checked. A lot of time it's pre-checked. So you might have not have ever had a signing yet where you have to make sure it's checked, but this is a common error. So one of our biggest clients and one of our favorite clients had a meeting with one of their favorite clients, right? So escrow had a meeting with their client, the lender, and they came back and reported all 3 of these docs saying, what's going on? Why are all these funding issues? These are all conditions that are coming up. Notaries are missing these. So slow down when you see these forms. They're for you. You got to make sure they get done. All right.
Jen?
Yeah.
Did you already say that sometimes those tax forms will be they'll be already signed? They still have to wet sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll look like a scan of something that was previously done. Whenever you see anything like that, I have it re-signed and dated. There's no harm in it. So yeah, this tax form, it's going to maybe look like, oh, what is this? Oh, they must have already signed it. Let's just skip it. Nope. Have them re-sign it using current date. Yeah, thanks for that reminder, Hannah. We got to do that.
Just like the subordination agreement. If it's already signed, just re-sign.
Yeah, same with subordination. And another note on subordination, it's not in this presentation, it's been in other classes, but subordination agreement is sometimes already signed or signed by the lender, needs to be signed by the borrower, and it's always notarized with an acknowledgement. Sometimes they don't include that notarization. They'll just include a note that says, must be acknowledged by notary. So whenever, that's why you have in your notary bag some extra acknowledgements and jurats. If you come across a subordination agreement, just notarize it, put an acknowledgement right behind it. You're going to save yourself a trip if you do that, or an error request later on down the line. Okay, uniform loan application. This is the new one, right? If you used to do this a while ago, and you're new to doing it again, you're not going to know this form. But this is the new 1003. So let's go for Catherine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, the first thing that I see is in that towards the top under type of credit, it shows that it's 2 and is not initial.
That's right. Very good. Thank you, Catherine. So that's right. If the borrower is applying for joint credit or there are multiple borrowers, then where it says type of credit, it'll say I'm applying for joint credit. Total number of borrowers will have the number. Each borrower intends to apply. That statement needs to be initialed. Some notaries always have this initialed, even if there's only one borrower. That's okay. It really only needs to be initialed when there's multiple borrowers. And typically, now the thing about this form that is very frustrating, I like the old form better, even though we always had issues on that too. There were more signatures, so there's more issues, but every lender is a little different. So the format is similar, but they might have, it's just going to like sometimes be condensed. Sometimes it's a longer form, but the short of it is section 1A, if there's multiple borrowers, you must have them initial. And if the form has multiple copies for each borrower, then they don't need to initial each other's application, but they need to initial their own. If you want to get initial happy on this form under section 1, that's okay. So if you're like, I'm going to have every borrower initial this statement right here, that's okay. That doesn't apply to every other doc. I would not be initial happy on any other doc, but on this one, that would be okay. Some notaries are just nervous, right? So they're like, I'm going to initial or have an initial just to be safe. But section 1A always requires an initial for multiple borrowers.
I have a question on this.
Sure.
Can you go back to that form,
Yeah.
please?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it sometimes in the application where if there's 2 borrowers, there'll be this page, and then further into the document, there'll be another page, like for the wife.
Yeah.
Does say that's the case, the husband's as the number 1 and the wife is number 2, do they need to initial on both pages, or is just the husband signing on this and the wife signing on the second form that's in the packet? I haven't always seen it where there's 2.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what I was thinking. So each are gonna, most of the time, each are gonna have their own application. Go back. So it'll say personal information, like in this case, Isabella Guerrero. And then to the side, it'll say list the other borrowers, and I'll have the other borrower. But technically, only Isabella needs to initial this form. And then Maria will initial her own form. If you want to have them both initial where it has this little, your initials, that's okay. That you're never going to get kicked back because of that. The form's never going to be rejected because of that. But technically, they only will need to initial their very own application.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they don't both sign it, that won't get kicked back either.
No, as long as there's initial there for the person that it corresponds with, that's fine. It's not going to be kicked back if there's multiple initials on this form. It will, though, if there's no initials.
Right, sure.
Yeah, very good.
All right, thank you.
No, thank you, Catherine. All right, next up, Patriot Act. Another Patriot Act. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Make sure to raise your virtual hand, and no hands are up. So I know you're not holding out from the last question. Okay, let's see. Let's go for Lee.
Okay, right off the bat, there's no information in the top portion of it, for the identification, and there's nothing in the bottom as well.
Yeah.
So the information is missing.
That's it. Very good, Lee. Thank you. So yeah, this is one. another Patriot Act, but one that only requires one form of identification. So it's okay that the second box is blank, but it's not okay that the first box is blank. So in this case, it was signed by the notary, wonderful, and dated, and they just missed it, right? I'm going to say they forgot about it. That's probably what happened. They forgot. This is probably what happened, and Hannah and Eli and all the notary management that's been notaries. You might think, okay, I'm going to fill this in later before I ship the docs. Because I want the signing to go quickly, right? So anything for me, I'm going to wait until I'm by myself. And then you forgot to do that and you just ship the docs out. So maybe a lack of triple checking your docs. Go ahead, Hannah.
A lot of notaries, and I just did one this morning, a lot of notaries have the borrower sign this form. I don't know why.
Yeah, and we touched on that a little bit too, and it's so true. I think that it's because it's not so obvious that it's for us. And you give yourself away as a newer notary when you have the borrower sign for it, because no one told you that this form was for you. It doesn't explicitly say notary, but it is, and it's not a notarization, but yeah, this one is for you. So keep that in mind. And then no one will, when we quality control docs, if it's the borrower signed, right away I go, oh, it's a new notary. Maybe they could benefit from our classes, which is nice, but you want to benefit before you make the mistake. Or like Connie, she realized she made the mistake, but she caught it before anybody else caught it, which was cool. All right. Next up, this one is complicated, or at least it seems complicated. And Elise Martinez, who's works in our office, she's been reviewing scans as part of some training she's doing. And this has been a huge error the past 2 weeks. This has been getting, our notaries have been not having this filled out. And just so you know, when this error comes up, our client is going to blame us as signing agents if this isn't completed right. So check it out. What do you see? Let's go for Lenora.
All right, so for the wire transfer, there's no routing information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also on the bottom, the property address and the phone number, that information has to be filled out.
Yeah, exactly. Good job, Lenora. So this form is present a lot of times just standard, even if the borrower is not getting money back in the process of closing the loan. I included a little snapshot of what would be on the settlement statement. So how you know that the borrower is getting money back or owes money is by looking at the settlement statement. If you look at, they're like the last 2 or 3 lines, it'll show just like this, due to borrower, right? Or due from borrower. So if the borrower is receiving funds at the close of escrow, they must select how they want the funds. Now, if it's $15, $20, the urgency is a lot less, right? If it's even like $500, the borrower may choose just to simply have a check mailed to them. But pretty much anything over that, if you know that you're getting more than $500, you normally don't want a check, right? You don't want a check mailed and then in your mailbox for creeps to come and steal potentially, right? Which does happen. You want to check the money wired, right? That's typically the option people select. So that's where this form comes in. So if there's any money that the borrowers are getting back, this has to be completed. This will happen a lot where it'll be signed and dated and left blank. So when we see this, if we're auditing the documents, we look at the settlement statement. In this case, and this is a fake doc, but it's a real life example, just happened. This person's getting almost $200,000. This is not chump change, right? That's a lot of money they're cashing out. And it came back blank. What's the consequences of that? This is such an important form due to fraud, right? Imagine the damage that could be done if this form gets in the wrong hands. So the notary will actually have to go back and get this form re-signed and completed. And then at that time, they'll also need to notarize it. That's what our client typically asks because of the potential for fraud. So the best bet is when you're with the signer, if there is money due to the signer, Let's have this whole entire form completed. Now, I highlighted really what is needed: the bank name, the account number, routing number, and account holder's name. And there's a quick note: that account holder's name is all the names exactly as they appear on the account. So if Robert Harrison has an account with Jane Harrison, he needs to put Robert Harrison and Jane Harrison, and she actually will also need to sign because they need to sign off. Sometimes what will happen is the top portion will be completed, but the account holder's name isn't completed. And this isn't something we can fix on the back end, right? Because we don't know the borrower's account, how it's held, the names. It could be held in their trust. It could be held with another person, their spouse or their child even, you know. This really needs to be filled out in front of the borrowers because they're the ones that are going to know how it's, you know, what their account looks like. So this one's an important one. Another little thing that you'll see is that a notary will just include a blank check, or she'll say, okay, don't fill it out, just sign it, and then we'll include a voided blank check, right? Just a voided check, because they think that's easier, right? They don't have to sit there and fill it out. If the borrower wants to include a voided check for this form, that's fine, but they also have to fill it out, right? Again, think about fraud. Think about what this form blank can do if there's potentially thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars on the line. So we've been getting this a lot lately. Every day there's an issue on this form. If the borrower wants a check, again, yeah, just like was mentioned by Lenora, put the property address at where they want it sent. They're going to default send it to the property on the documents, but what if it's a second home? Maybe you rent that second home out. The borrower rents it out. Now a check for $500 is going to their renter, right? So this is an important one. It's your responsibility. We just had to make sure this is completed. Like I said before, a lender was going back and forth because the borrower was like, where's my money? This form wasn't filled out. And the lender would not back down and basically said, we're not paying for a second trip. This is the notary's fault. It's a notary's fault that the funds were delayed. So something to think about. Okay, next up, notice of right to cancel. This is one of the most important documents for notaries. We sometimes say it's the most important doc for you to get right. So check it out, raise your hand when you're ready. Okay, let's go for Debbie in Santa Maria.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so the date on that the signer signed is incorrect. The top date should have been changed, because if it was signed on the 25th, they should have corrected that date and initialed it. And then also changed the right to cancel 3-day limit, because it's only, if they sign on the 26th, they have more than 3 days more, and that 26 should have been changed.
Exactly. Very good. Thank you. So again, this is your responsibility. A lot of new notaries will say, well, this should have already been filled out correctly. It's not always filled out correctly. So just like she mentioned, the bottom date, 2021. So this is another flub up that notaries are making left and right, or borrowers are making and notaries aren't catching. And if they sign on the 25th, but the pre-printed dates are incorrect, we have to have them changed. Now, sometimes, and we'll see a sample of this in a bit, sometimes those dates are blank. Sometimes they're pre-printed. So you want to look at the date that you're signing. That top date's going to reflect the current signing date. So the solution is you cross it off, have the signer enter the current date, have them initial. And that means the right to cancel date, a little lower in the document page, is going to change. So that's why you always keep a copy of that rescission calendar with you. Have a digital one and have a physical one. Do not just look at the calendar. You're going to mess up from time to time. have the actual physical right to cancel. If you want us to email one, email me, Virginia@c2csignings.com, or email training@c2csignings.com, and we'll email you a copy. You can also just search it online. I know the NNA provides copies as well. Also, if you're doing a coast-to-coast signing, we have instructions that Hannah's created. And a lot of times notaries don't download them. They think, oh, I've done this a million times, I don't need to download them. I would suggest every file, take a quick review. You're also going to see a right to cancel in that package as well. So you need your right to cancel. And again, monitor borrower's dates. This is, this date issue is an avoidable error if you are paying attention on the signing. So right to cancel, big deal. We actually have a video just on the right to cancel, a little one on YouTube. So watch that video until you know it, until you understand what the right to cancel is and how to complete it. Ooh, another note. This week, and at least if you're on, you'll know, because I think you saw it, the pre-printed actual right to cancel date, this second date, the lender had given the signer an extra day. And we didn't know why. We didn't know if that was intentional, because the truth is that the lender can extend the right to cancel. By law, they have to give the signer at least 3 days. But every once in a while, a lender will give them a 4th day. I don't know why. Sometimes it happens. Or maybe the lender observes a holiday that isn't a federal holiday, and so it'll push it back to 4 days. So we saw that, and we told the client, and the client was like, actually, this is an error. The lender made an error on this. So really look at the form. If you see that, if you're looking at your calendar and you're like, these pre-printed dates aren't right, tell the person who hired you. We caught it after the fact though, which meant we had to go back, second trip, right? So just another note, everybody in this industry makes errors. I had one notary get really mad at errors and say, why does this happen? Because everybody in the whole process is a human, and there's some human touch to all of these, even these pre-printed dates. Somebody had to put these dates down, in their template for them to come up. So if you can catch an error, you're going to be everyone's hero. So just a little note. Okay, next up, deed of trust or mortgage, depending on the state you're in. Some states call it a mortgage. Check this form out. Let me know what you see that's wrong. There's actually a few things, I think. Oh, I gave you a little cheat if you were looking on accident. Okay, let's go for Brenda.
Okay, so the name Virginia, and then it shouldn't be signing agent, it should be notary public.
Yeah, very good.
And then the names are there. Let's see, are they matching? No. It should be Jonathan David Williams and Margarita Rose Williams. So not just the initials.
Oh, perfect. Brenda, you're the best. I love to hear it. So, oh, go ahead.
And then they need to circle what is appropriate in the verbiage there.
Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, that's everything. Great job, Brenda. So we'll break it down because there's 3, potentially 4 things that were wrong here. So yeah, before me, I'm the notary. My name is Virginia Cherabel, but what's my notary name? Your notary name is whatever's on your stamp. So my notary name is V. Ann Cherabel, right? So I needed to put V. Ann Cherabel, and this is actually a really common error. We see it all the time. So you might say, well, yeah, but my name is Virginia Cherabel. Well, yeah, sure, but your notary name is your official name, right? So I should have put V. Ann Cherabel. Brenda mentioned it, signing agent. My official title is notary public, right? When I'm notarizing things. So if I see signing agent, that's going to present an issue. A county may reject it and a lender may reject it because that's really not your official title when you're notarizing forms. This next error is a, whoop, man, my mouse is so sensitive. The next error is huge. It happens all the time, especially for one particular client. The name on the notarization that you put for the signers, right? The people who personally appeared before you, that name must match the signature line on the document you're notarizing. It has to match it. So don't abbreviate it. Don't make it short. Sometimes we'll see, just like in this sample where there's just a middle initial, sometimes you'll just see Jonathan and Margarita Williams. That'll get kicked back absolutely for sure. So again, name on the notarization must match the name on the signature line. Don't cut corners, put that full name. But this is very common. These are common notarization errors.
Some notaries will even blend it where they'll put Jonathan and Margarita Williams.
Yeah.
Leave out each individual's last name.
Yeah, and maybe they think it's because of like, what if it's a really scrunched up notarization? This is a beautiful one where there's a ton of space to write, but sometimes the formatting is a little wonky. So it's like, oh, that's super tiny. I'm going to have to, squeeze it all in there. Again, as a notary, you've got your toolbox, right? Your toolbox is loose notarizations as well. So if it's a pre-printed form that you're just like, I'm not going to be able to get this all in there, say see attached, and right behind that form, put a loose notarization and get one. And if you want samples, you know where to go, or just some blank all-purpose acknowledgements. You can also just search online. And then you can, feel comfortable to write it all out nice and clean, but don't combine them like Hannah said. Don't cut corners. You need the full bit on the notarization, right? It needs to match perfect. Okay, next up, signature name affidavit. So there's many different copies of or templates of this form. What's wrong on this one? Oh, Melissa, been trying to get to you, Melissa.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. On the last one, real quick, you know
Uh-huh.
how your stamp has V and a cherubel, and then you wrote your notary name, Virginia. Should you write V and a cherubel?
Absolutely. So that was that first error, is that my notary name. Oh, maybe did I miss that and tell you guys that it's your notary name is whatever's on your stamp. I should have put V dot and a cherubel. Yeah, absolutely. Good catch. What about this one? Signature name. Do you want to try this one?
Yes.
Cool.
The date, first of all, is 21.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay, and then February 25th, 2022, VA Cherubel, subscribed and sworn before me. I think that's it.
So remember, this is a jurat.
Okay.
So jurat.
Oh, we got to give them the oath.
Say that again.
We have to give them the oath.
So that's true. We do have to give them an oath. That's true. But let's see. I'm going to just show you guys because this is another super common one. So again, like Melissa brought out, you want to triple check borrower's dates. I included that a million times, I know, but it's because it's happened. But on jurats, where it says by, that's super important. Notaries will notarize themselves by putting their name. So typically on jurats, you don't put your name, you sign and you stamp, but you're not adding your notary name. This is where the signer's name goes. So in effect, I notarized myself on this jurat, which obviously we can't do, right? So it should have been, oh, here I go. It should have been Margarita Rose Williams next to where it says by. So again, this is another super common error that we have nearly every day for one particular lender. So you want to know the difference between an acknowledgement notarization and a jurat notarization. And typically on jurats, where it says by, you always put the signer's name as appears on the signature line of the document, and you very rarely put your name. You mostly just sign and stamp it. Jurats are little, right? But Melissa brought out a great point. When you have a jurat, you have to administer an oath. And I think in our video Notary's Choice, we talk about what that's going to actually look like at a signing table. So check out Notary's Choice and you'll see that info. If you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to provide an oath, how does that look? It's pretty straightforward. All right, another right to cancel. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Okay, let's go for Tiki.
It says you signed on the I wish to cancel area.
Yeah. Yep, that's a big one. There's another error on this one as well. Can anyone catch it? Let's go for Henrietta.
Hi. So the date of the transaction is 2/25/22, and you needed to put the borrower's initials there.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Thank you, Henrietta. So exactly. Now every form is different. So sometimes you'll just need to have the borrower add those dates and there's no initials required. But in this case, it really explicitly says borrower's dates there, or excuse me, borrower's initials. So you need to have them initial. Some notaries will, and we've actually added this to our instructions many times, is if we have to add the borrower's dates for the right to cancel, always have the borrower initial just in case, right? Just in case it's wanted and no one told us. In this case, it's really clear. It says borrower's initials and they were missed. So just again, looking at the form, don't assume that every form is the same. There's different formats. Slow it down, right? Read the form. And this is a big one. I wish to cancel. Yikes, right? Most of the time, if you've signed all the docs, they're not going to cancel, right? Or they're not going to cancel right after they signed all the docs. So this is just a clear error. And the borrower, and if you've been a notary for a while, you'll know this. If you give this document to the signer, they'll see their name and they'll want to initial. They won't even look at it, right? They'll just see their name and just start to sign rather than initial. Sorry, start to sign it. So you want to really direct them. Some people put like a little Post-it note over where it says I wish to cancel, or I'll present it, like put my hand over and say, don't sign there. And you can make like a dorky joke out of it. Sometimes I will, and they'll be like, oh no, I'm almost canceled. Like everyone gets all nervous. That's why we have multiple copies of docs, right? We have their set as well. So if they sign there, you just catch it and say, oops, let's take this one out. Let's grab the other copy and have them sign in the right place. But yeah, don't have them sign there. That'll happen. And when it comes back like that, it's always a re-sign of this form. And I included 2 right to cancels because of the urgency. Most clients will not allow a backdate of this form if the signer made an error. Some will. So basically, if the signer made an error on this form, sometimes the lender will say, just have it re-signed using the date that they signed originally, right? There's no notarization, so that's not a problem. But some lenders don't allow that, which means it has to be signed current date. So in this case, this signed on the 25th today. What if this error doesn't get caught until next Tuesday? Which means now next Tuesday, we have to get this form re-signed. Next Tuesday is March 1st. So it has to get, if the lender doesn't allow the backdating of this form, it has to get re-signed for March 1st, which is going to push the funding out 3 more days. So this was supposed to fund, or the right to cancel expires on March 1st, which means technically it could fund the next day. But now if we have to re-sign it March 1st, the funding's going to get pushed back until the 4th, right? 3 days after that re-sign date, which means now they're going to fund as soon as they can fund is on the 7th. So it went from getting funded around the 2nd to getting funded around the 7th. So what does that mean? Rate locks expire. Previous mortgages need to get paid. So there can be fees, late fees, penalties. There's money issues, right? So when it comes to right to cancel, this can be a costly document to get wrong. That's why it's so important that we slow it down. As a new notary, master this form and you're going to save a lot of money, right? Someone's going to have to pay those rate locks. And the truth is Coast to Coast pays thousands of dollars in rate locks. Lisa just wrote a check for $2,000 because of notary errors. Just this week. So, and who's paying for that? Notary's not paying for that, right? We're paying for that. So,
and we had to waive the signing fees.
yeah. So, and it's funny, this client was like, we'll give you everything we have out of gratitude that we're paying these rate lock extensions, which is super cool. But this is a small client. And we make maybe 125 on their file. How long is it, which really means we make like $25 because we'll pay the notary, you know, 75 to 100, depending on the job, right? What it requires. So how long is it going to take us in signings to recoup that $2,000 if we're making 25 per file and they have 10 files a month? We're not going to make money on their files for quite a while. So something to think about. That's a perspective. And that's why we do these classes, is because you don't know that, right? Most of the time you don't know that that's what's going on. So master this form. This is a form for you. Most important form for you to get right, because there are consequences, right? But now you know. And unfortunately, the notaries that are going to be making these mistakes aren't on these classes right now, right? You guys are going to have this information and you're not going to make these mistakes. So that's why we need to get this information out there, because it's costly and you can lose clients over it. All right, so that's all of the docs, but here are just a few reminders, and Hannah, jump in, or anybody else on the Coast to Coast team. Triple check your docs at the signing table, while you're signing, before you leave, and then before you ship them. At least 3 times you want to check them. When you're printing your docs, take your time. Even if it's a rush, it's better to call the signer and say, hey, I just got the docs. I'll be 10 minutes late. Take that extra 10 minutes and make sure you printed it all right. Make sure you downloaded all the docs that are on the portal for printing, and then review the docs that printed with what is on your computer, right? The PDF that was sent to you. So make sure nothing's cut off, that your toner isn't messing up, or your drum, so it's not too light, or there's not streaks or spots on the docs. A tip that Lisa Bittner gave me, my mom and the owner of Coast to Coast, is to be in charge of the signing. So you're there for a reason. How you can be in charge is, 1, always holding onto the documents and only giving the signers 1 form at a time to sign. And then when they return the doc, you look at it. That's where your first QC period, your quality control period, comes into play. That's a great way. If you just give the borrowers docs, you're going to be there for forever and they're not going to know how to fill them out, right? And just pointing isn't enough. So you want to be in control of each doc. If the signer is rushing, you take your time. It would be best for the signing to be longer than you making a 2nd or 3rd trip to correct your errors because the signer, you felt rushed. So in the end, the signer is going to thank you in the long run, right? If the docs are perfect. So you know, and as you get good, you're going to be, and you've done it a while, you're going to be able to go a little faster, right? But initially you want to make sure that the docs get signed completed properly. So if the signer is in a rush, you just say, hey, I'm willing to go faster, but I want to make sure we get this perfect. I would hate for me to have to come back. I'd hate for us to have a second date, even though you're lovely, but I want to make sure these docs get done right. When an error is made, and this is really Hannah's team's, you know, this is what they deal with. And if you were on our last live class, we talked about it. You want to be quick and correct the error. If you get an error email, you handle it when you get it. Don't, okay, I'll handle that tomorrow or the next day. No, you do it now. Errors have urgent timelines, right? So you jumping on it is going to make everyone happy. Don't ghost a client. Don't ghost the person who's asking you for an error correction update. Communicate. You also don't need to be defensive. You don't need to grovel either. There's no judgment. It's just about getting the error fixed. We all make mistakes. And so when you take accountability, you make partners. And isn't that what we all need? No matter how long you've been doing this, who of us can afford to burn a bridge? Coast to Coast can't. We never, ever denied a client because we know how important it is in this industry. It's cutthroat in a lot of ways. It's competitive, and you want people to be loyal to you. And that's one way you can do it, by taking accountability. Hannah, is there anything to add on this, since this is totally your forte?
No, this looks perfect. Yeah, triple check and get the quick turnaround time. I had to deactivate at least 2 notaries yesterday who put off the corrections solely because they're being stubborn.
Yeah. We can't work with a notary like that, right? We don't want to deactivate anybody, but the position it puts us in with our clients is a tough one, right? So we want you to keep getting jobs. So take accountability. If you're disputing the error, you don't think it's your fault, communicate in a professional way. You might just not know that this is considered a notary signing agent error. But yeah, don't ruin a friendship and a partnership over an error that really will take you just a little bit of time to correct. So there you go. That's our presentation for today. Thank you so much for joining. I know this is a little bit of a long one, but it's super fun for us, and you guys are doing great. You guys caught all the errors. That's awesome. If you didn't catch some of those errors, you can rewatch this video once it's posted. You can watch our previous classes, and you can ask us. And if you have any suggestions for further class or future classes, make sure to email us. So you can email me at virginia@c2csignings.com or training@c2csignings.com. We love your suggestions. Thanks again, everyone.